In this video, we'll create a truss bridge using 2 truss girders and 9 lateral truss braces. Constructing the truss girders is covered in my video modeling HO scale truss girders. I'll show you an easy way to quickly create the lateral truss braces and then assemble the components. The resulting structure is a dramatic addition to any model scene. Two truss girders and 9 truss braces are used in this assembly. 8 of the braces are shown here. We'll make one more brace to show you how it's done. The first thing we're going to do is measure each strut to get a length. The length should be 1/8 of an inch less than the overall distance from the top edge to the bottom edge of the truss. Make a list of the braces that you'll need. There's 1 at the center and 2 going out from either side. Next, we'll use a scrap of sheetrock, ceiling tile, or board, and a piece of wax paper. A steel square will help when we're assembling the brace. To keep it from moving around, we'll use some push pins to position it. We'll use the square to position the basswood pieces that make up the brace. We'll cut 2 pieces of 1/16 by 1/4 inch basswood, 2.5 inches long. We can use a small miter box for this. We'll butt one of the pieces up against the square at the inside corner and place the other one about 3 inches away and parallel to the first one. Next, we'll cut 2 pieces of basswood 3/32 by 3/32, 2.75 inches long. We're making the longest brace. Now we'll spread glue on the last 1/4 inch of each end of one of these pieces and glue it to the 2 larger basswood pieces. You're going to snug it up against that left side. We'll repeat with the other 3/32 by 3/32 piece and glue it to form the other side. Before the glue sets, you want to make sure everything is perfectly square. I use a little piece of wood to push against the edges. Check it out. The square is a great guide. Now take a push pin and just place it about the center of that right hand piece, just to hold everything in place. Next, we'll cut a diagonal brace from 1/32 by 1/8 basswood and glue it across the assembly. You can use the diagonal cutters for this. The edge does not have to be perfectly square. Put a little bit of glue on both ends and press it as a diagonal across the brace. Next, we're going to start assembling our bridge. We'll take one of the truss girders that we built previously and use a few push pins to hold it in place. Now we'll rub the edge of one of the largest truss braces to get it square. Then we'll spread glue on that edge and place it against the end vertical strut in the truss. Use 2 small clamps to hold the parts together. You want to make sure those 2 guys line up perfectly. We'll put another push pin in halfway along the girder Now when we place our steel square down, it'll slide underneath the push pins against the steel of the pin. We can snug it up against the corner and use push pins to hold down the brace on the left-hand side there. This makes a perfectly square assembly. Now we'll spread glue on the vertical edge of the truss brace, position the second truss girder against it, and we'll use 2 small clamps again to hold these parts together. Now we'll clean the edges of another truss brace and place it between the truss girders at the far end. This is just to get spacing right now. Push that girder into place. Use push pins to hold it in place. By doing this, we have a perfectly square assembly. Will not be disturbed as we start making the braces along the rest of the bridge. Now we'll glue the truss braces in order, one at a time, starting from the left and working towards the right. Line it up. Now you can't get clamps into the center here, so here's a neat trick. Take an elastic band and tie a loop at the end of it, and use some type of hook, a crochet hook. I'm using a grounding pigtail in this case because I happen to have a lot of them hanging around in the shop. Use that to pull through very gently. You don't want to spring this thing up in the air. Put a stick through either end, and it makes a perfect clamp to hold that wood in place. You don't need a lot of pressure. You just want to make sure that the joint's going to be tight as the glue is drying. After these have all glued in place and the glue is hardened, you can remove all of the clamps. Take a little bit of care when you're doing this. You don't want to destroy this beautiful truss bridge after you went through all the trouble to make it. Now we'll cut a piece of 1/32 by 3-inch thick basswood for the deck. You'll spread glue along the top surface of the upper truss members. And again, we'll use clamps to hold that in place while the glue dries. Now, alternatively, you can use planks across the top to make an open grid structure. This particular bridge I'm going to use for a highway, and so I'm going to have a paved road above, and so I just used a single piece of basswood. The final result should look like this.